Today on the CTV News at 5, postal routes expanded and jobs cut. What union reps and mail carriers are saying about changes at Canada Post. Plus, Alberta's rat-free reputation is on the line after dozens of Norway rats are discovered in southern Alberta. What's being done to get rid of the rodents? And
like someone to connect all the dots in Alberta Health Services.
Apology not accepted. Now an Alberta Health Services employee says she's being disciplined for speaking out.
You're watching CTV News.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Businesses and residents who get door-to-door mail delivery may find they'll have to wait longer for their mail to arrive as a result of route changes being imposed by Canada Post. Starting Monday, 45 of the 55 Lethbridge mail routes are being expanded, and postal workers will be starting their shifts later in the day. The changes will also affect at least a dozen letter carrier positions in the city. But the union also claims it'll impact service. Terry Vogt reports.
The changes being implemented by Canada Post are part of a nationwide restructuring, prompted by reduced mail volumes and the way mail is being sorted and delivered. In Lethbridge, a dozen jobs are affected, with the biggest impact on letter carriers. Starting Monday, the number of delivery routes in the city will be reduced from 55 to 45.
Which means there will be 10 fewer letter carriers delivering the same amount of mail to the same number of people, with all of the attendant impact that's going to have.
Ken Sears is past president of the local division of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. He says with longer routes and later starting times, it will take letter carriers longer to sort their mail and longer to deliver the letters, flyers, and parcels. The union says that will impact service.
All of these things will have impact upon the time that people can expect their mail to arrive at their doorstep.
A spokesman for Canada Post says mail volumes have dropped 20% over the past 5 years, and Canada Post needs to be more efficient.
Our people have job security, so while we eliminate positions, nobody loses their job in this, but often, and we've seen this pretty much in every community that we've been to, there are fewer letter carriers required to deliver the amount of mail that's in the system because they're just simply less.
Union officials say while the restructuring is happening across Canada, few communities are being impacted as much as Lethbridge. They say the 20% reduction in routes and the dozen full and casual jobs affected are about 2.5 times higher than most other communities are experiencing. Terry Vogt, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Thank you very much for that tonight, Terry. Union officials say it's still not clear how the restructuring will affect the 12 employees whose jobs are being eliminated. They say some of the positions will be eliminated, though, through arbitration, but other postal workers may have to go from full-time to replacement shifts. More than a half century long, Alberta has prided itself on being rat-free. Now officials are scrambling to keep it that way after a nest was found at a landfill in Medicine Hat. City officials confirmed dozens of Norway rats were found and killed over the last 6 days, and they're worried there could be more. They were discovered on August 9th. Traps have since been set up throughout the landfill to capture any others, and infrared cameras are in place to track the movement and location of the rodents. The rats can reproduce very quickly, so the province isn't wasting any time in responding.
The numbers are huge in terms of the damage that rats can do to food supply, to buildings, in terms of health, problems. What I know is Albertans want Alberta to be rat-free, and it's definitely worth a trip down here for me to talk to the people who are working on this problem.
Bylaw officers are urging residents to be vigilant and report any suspected rodent activity to the city. And the lovely Dory Rossiter joins us tonight with weather. Back into the sunshine, temperatures climbing back up the stairs. What do you do that for? Made you blush.
Yeah, make me blush here. Yes, we are looking at really nice temperatures. And of course, everyone's main concern, main focus this week is next week with Whoop Up Days. Lots of activities, most of them outdoors. So we want to make sure the weather's good and it's looking right on track. I'll have all the nice, fine, lovely weather details coming up in a couple of minutes.
Great, thanks, Dory. A senior manager with Alberta Health Services says the closure of the Little Bow Continuing Care Centre could have been handled better. Alberta Health Services officials traveled to Carmen Gay yesterday to apologize to staff and family of the 11 remaining residents at the care centre. In a telephone interview after the meeting, Executive Vice President Chris Mazurkiewicz said he apologized for the process and miscommunication, as well as the anxiety and stress it produced. He says the message came across loud and clear, and the process could have been improved.
One of the suggestions that's actually come from a staff is some thoughts on how we do this, and perhaps we need to talk to some rural leaders and talk to them about how we could do this if this were to occur in another community in some future point in time, right? How would you do it? What does it mean? And those kinds of things. And I think we're quite open to hearing that internally.
While apologizing for the process, officials reaffirmed that Alberta Health Services is moving ahead with transition of residents to other facilities. Staff say 2 of the remaining 11 residents will be relocated on Friday. Job termination letters are expected to go out to staff on Friday and Monday. Alberta Health Services may have apologized for the way it treated families and the staff in Carmen Gay, but at least one member is saying she's being threatened with disciplinary action for speaking out.
I'd like to know what's going to be left here for my kids. I'd like someone to connect all the dots in Alberta Health Services and make bureaucrats responsible to elected officials.
In an interview last week, healthcare aide Joan Peterson expressed concerns over the impact of losing more than 40 jobs in the community. She also pointed out that bumping staff with high seniority would affect the staff of other health centres across southern Alberta. Peterson says she's been told that she's been written up for her comments.
The nurse came out of the building. She looked at me and pointed her finger and said, the Alberta Health Services has given her strict orders today that if anyone speaks to the press or walks out of the building to speak to the press, that they are in defiance of Alberta Health Services. And then I turned around, I had my children with me, and I said, okay, let's talk, because I was so angered by that. I don't believe you're allowed to just tell people they can't talk to the press.
AUPE officials say many employees disagree with the closure and have concerns over the impact on elderly residents of the facility, but are afraid to speak out because it could impact their jobs. Peterson, who says the reasons for shutting down the care centre have never been properly explained to her or justified. She says she no longer has any interest in continuing a career with Alberta Health Services after the centre closes. Liberal leader Raj Sherman is calling for the dismantling of the Alberta Health Services Board. Sherman was in Lethbridge today, where he met with seniors and other community groups. He says the closure of the Continuing Care Centre in Carmen Gay may be the first of many across Alberta. Sherman questions how the facility could pass inspections in April and then be deemed unsafe and slated for closure just 3 months later.
My question is this because of political interference? Because they don't have a PCMLA? Is it because they have an agenda to move all the seniors into facilities built by private corporations and take our seniors out of the hands of the community and out of the hands of the public service? These are questions that need to be answered by Premier Redford. She ultimately bears the brunt of the responsibility.
The Liberal leader dubbed Health Minister Fred Horne the architect of the current seniors policy and bears responsibility for the healthcare emergency crisis in 2012. Sherman plans to visit Carmen Gay tomorrow to meet with staff and families at the Continuing Care Centre. Regional police are investigating after a series of counterfeit U.S. $50 bills were passed at local businesses. It happened between August 11th and 12th at 3 Southside businesses. One suspect is described as a Caucasian man in his 40s, about 6 feet tall, 240 pounds and clean-shaven. In each case, the fake bills appear to be made of poor quality paper and are slightly smaller than regular. Businesses are reminded to always confirm the authenticity of any bill before accepting it. A Colehurst woman selected to train with former U.S. Vice President Al Gore is heading to the States to learn more about climate change. Linda Harrison is one of 115 Canadians accepted to take part in the environment-focused sessions in California next week. She'll be one of 800 presenters from over 20 countries trained by Gore and some of the world's top climate scientists. Each presenter is committed to delivering at least 10 free presentations on climate change. Harrison has led local shoreline and coulee cleanups and has been part of the Green List campaign committee. She's ready to learn more about environmental solutions and share them with the community.
I just became very aware, I think, at quite a young age in elementary school, and got involved with a lot of environmental organizations back in the 80s in Kelowna growing up. And as I've gotten older and relocated, and especially having children, it's really driven me to look at my lifestyle choices and to find ways that I can implement choices that are better for the earth, but also better for my family.
Harrison leaves for San Francisco on Monday through the sessions. Though the sessions are free, Harrison is responsible for covering her own travel, food, and accommodation expenses. Lethbridge Transit is celebrating its 100th anniversary today. To honor the major milestone, city officials handed out cake at City Hall and showed off transit memorabilia from the last century. For today only, transit also offered 5-cent rides throughout the city to reflect the fares that were in place when the service began. Officials say transit has come a long way since its beginning in 1912.
Honestly, there's so many different things that have happened over the years, from going from trolley cars to buses and now hybrid buses, having only male drivers on staff, and now probably half of our employment is female drivers. Fare technology has changed a lot. I mean, there was a time when bus operators used to give change to people on the bus, and now it's all with the swipe of a card.
Sure has come a long way, hasn't it? The transit display is on display at City Hall until tomorrow afternoon. And as we go to breaks, let's take a look at today's closing numbers.